Welcome to the War Room, a weekly roundtable discussion that takes place every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in at 911warroom.com/Zoom.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's 5 o'clock. It is September 25th, 2022. Welcome to the War Room. We just got out of a 4-hour phone call with the Lawyers Committee that Joseph and Barbara were on, and Sandra. Really good, really informative, fantastic conversation. Really just looking at the legal avenues, throwing out some ideas on where to go from here. It seems like there was a strong support for going to the Supreme Court with the grand jury. I got to agree with that. I really like it. I would like to hear more of, I didn't realize this, that when you go to the Supreme Court, they have like 1,000 cases to look at and they decide what they want to look at. And that's kind of disheartening.
I have something important to tell you about this.
Please, Barb, go ahead.
Okay. I apologize for the background noise. Can everybody hear me all right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll just mute you when you're off, though.
Yeah, I'll mute myself as soon as I'm done talking. So very briefly, this is very important for everyone to understand. There is a serious disagreement within the Lawyers Committee as to whether to go to the Supreme Court. Anyone who believes we should be going to the Supreme Court after almost 5 years, and we have raised $500,000, please get to Jane and Nick and myself and Richard by email and tell us that. Please, we need support within the vote that's coming up. Thank you.
Thank you.
And can I just add to that, there was a really important point made during that call that even if the chances are not great in the face of it, just the interest and the attention it would drum up to be able to say that we're going to the Supreme Court could be a lot to reignite the movement, because that's a huge step. And you being able to put that out there and tell people we are going to the Supreme Court carries so much weight that alone, even if we don't get heard, even if the Supreme Court doesn't decide to take it, even if they take it and it doesn't go our way, that alone is critical. So I'm totally behind going to the Supreme Court, and we'll do whatever we need to do. Barbara, if what you're asking is that we just send you guys emails?
Send an email to everyone on the board.
Okay.
And Christina Borgeson has resigned from the board.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
I will name the board members. Actually, what I'll do, Sandra, is just send you the list of the board members in our direct email.
Yeah, but Barb, are you aware? Are you aware? Because we can put this out. I mean, Jean and we admin the 9/11 Truth Movement page on Facebook. That's 43,000 members. If we put your email addresses out there, we'll drum up some support, but that comes with a price tag, right? Like you might get bombarded by people that you'd rather not hear from. So
well, I think what matters right now is those of you who were on the 4-hour call to do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's very important.
Okay.
Now that's only if you believe that.
Of course.
I will tell you that there has been only one argument on the other side, and it's been by Danny Sheehan. And he's the big attorney, he's the big man. It's like putting a rock on one side of the scale. But Danny's argument, I do not believe should hold water, but I'll tell you what it is on the other side. And it has swayed some of our members. Okay, I'm not going to give names, but it doesn't matter, because if you send your email, if you honestly believe we should go to the Supreme Court after I've told you what I'm about to tell you, please be as forceful as you can, as diplomatic and forceful as you can in your emails to the entire board, minus Christina, who has just resigned. Okay, so the argument on the other side, regardless of who gave it, is, oh my God, the Supreme Court is an activist conservative court. They're going to take it and they're going to find against us for sure. Now, this is just Danny's opinion, isn't it? He doesn't know. But anyway, he says they're going to take it, they're going to find against us, and then the negative decision will be precedent across all of the circuits of the United States, not just in the Second Circuit in the Northeast of the United States. The problem with that, there are two big problems with that argument. Well, many problems, but I'm just going to name some of them. The first big problem with that argument is that's effectively the case right now. In every single circuit across the country, the U.S. attorney, the problem is that the U.S. attorneys have become gatekeepers to the federal criminal grand juries. That was never, ever intended, and that's why Congress passed the very statute, the federal law, that the U.S. attorney for the Second Circuit in New York on November 7th of 2018 sent us that 2-line letter saying, yeah, this is the law, we're going to obey it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that the Lawyers Committee has done since then was to wait for about 2.5 or 3 years, calling him up, emailing him, and then there was a woman who took over from the first one, and then we called and emailed her, and we tried to just get the U.S. attorney, whoever it was, in succession, to tell us if they had just followed the law. They would not answer either way. Therefore, we filed the mandamus suit, which is only asking for the U.S. attorney to be forced by the court, by the Second Circuit Appeals Court, to be forced first by the district, now just by the Second Circuit Appeals Court, to simply require the U.S. attorney to give it to the grand jury and to let us know it's been given to the grand jury. We are only asking for that one little tip of the iceberg of what are called ministerial records. Nothing about the content of the grand jury, which is secret, and we acknowledge and honor that secrecy. So that's what the mandamus case is. So let me go back. Danny Sheehan's argument is that, oh my God, the Supreme Court is going to take it, they're going to find against us because that's who they are. They're these conservative activist court now, and we know they're going to find against us, and therefore the U.S. attorneys are never going to ever let us know that they've given anything to a federal criminal grand jury across the whole country, but they don't anyway. Okay, that's number one. Number two, very important. On the other side of the coin, which is what I've been arguing, and will continue to do so before the vote, is that this court, I think it's precisely because it has such a strong conservative majority, and that this majority prides itself on being a textualist, originalist, fundamentalist, textualist court, the conservative justices, that they, of all courts, should want to find for us on our theory under the First Amendment right to petition the government, and to know if the government has at least gotten our evidence of crimes. So unlike Danny Sheehan, I believe that this is the court that we have the best chance with if they take it. And as Sandra, as you just said, if they don't take it, which one of our board members, a very important one, says, well, they're not going to take it anyway. And then Richard Gage and I say, well, good, even if they don't take it, at least we have the motivation to the movement. We can raise donations, which we desperately need to continue as the Lawyers Committee. Believe me, we desperately need them, because that will motivate the movement. And besides, it's a tremendous achievement to have made it to the second highest court in the land to begin with. Okay.
Two quick
so
points,
there are many
Barbara.
other, yeah.
2 quick points.
I mean,
one, this doesn't, like you said, this doesn't eliminate any other avenues. This is just one thing that we're going to pursue.
That is correct. This is going to the Supreme Court. Don't be dissuaded by the argument that we have options in lieu of going to the Supreme Court. We can go to the Supreme Court and do X, Y, and Z other, given the resources. The important thing to know about the Supreme Court is it's our biggest case. It's the one that we're known for. It's the one we've had the most donations specifically for. It's the one that matters the most, that has the strongest evidence, and I believe the best chance of succeeding at the Supreme Court. And if they don't accept it, then we're just going to motivate the movement, and we'll be there in the historical record. I don't see a downside.
We have questions from Kale and Al, but I wanted to ask, did Christina, the resignation wasn't under duress, was it? It's all
I
good.
can't speak to what's going on with
All right,
that. I can
10-4.
just tell you she just resigned.
Understood. Kale, you got a question for Barbara?
Yeah, so speaking in layman's terms, because the majority are not going to understand this. If we go to the Supreme Court and we lose, does this mean all courts throughout the land, we can't fight this anymore? Is that the danger?
Well, that's the claim by Danny Sheehan. However, you can't fight it right now anyway. And the only hope to be able to fight it, let me finish. The only hope to be able to fight it in the future is to win at the friggin' Supreme Court.
Yeah, no, I get that because that's the top. But is that the main danger with all of this?
It's the only argument that's been given on the other side of not going.
So, okay. Now, if they don't take it and they just kind of pass it on, then we can continue in other courts.
Correct,
right?
absolutely. Where's the downside? I don't see any.
Thank you, Kale.
The word that's not being said here is scope. The scope of their decision will not affect cases that don't come under it. And if the only thing is what Barbara's saying, then that would be the only thing in jeopardy. And it sounds like the opponent to the position is very afraid. I busted in, and that's against the rules.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, it's a fear-based argument not to go to the Supreme Court, and we should not be swayed by fear-based arguments, in my opinion.
Alfred?
Yeah, a question for Barbara. You once mentioned that you thought the only way of winning for us was to go to an international court, and putting all our efforts into that. That would be one question that I would have.
Shall I address that one first?
Well, let me continue because I want to sort of touch on that. I don't know if anybody listens to Jimmy Dore, but there was a wonderful interview where he talks about the Rand Corporation and how the Ukraine invasion by Russia, so quote unquote, was described years ago, and it was laid out exactly what the West was trying to do in NATO. So my thinking is, internationally, there's a straight line from 9/11 and the neocons and what they've been trying to do. And it would be fertile ground for an international court. And I mean, this is just my layman thinking going along, but I'd love to hear your opinion on all of those items.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you for asking that. If Mick had given me more time, I would have gone into it. That was what he cut me off on the other call. But anyway, the bottom line is, you can imagine that the Lawyers Committee has looked into international courts very, very carefully. And we have tried to follow up some of these international possibilities. And I will just touch on some of them. We worked directly with Judge Imposamoto while he was alive. You may know that we brought him to the big anniversary event for the 15th anniversary in New York City. It was called Justice in Focus. And in fact, I personally invited him and paid for his ticket so that he could come. And Jane Clark, who's the founding president, even before Mick Harrison, who joined her later, a little bit later, she founded the Lawyers Committee and the predecessor organization as well. to it. She and I and Danny Sheehan went to Rome to meet personally with Judge Impossimato after the Justice in Focus event. Yeah, there he is on the screen. So Judge Impossimato had been the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the country of Italy. And he still, of course, being the honorary Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, which is the position you get when you retire, he still worked with the magistrate judges within the system in Italy. Now, why Italy? As I recall, there was something like 24 Italian victims of the World Trade Center attacks and maybe some on the planes. I don't know. I don't think the Pentagon. But anyway, there were about 24 victims, Italian victims. So Judge Impossimato wanted to use the international or universal jurisdiction and was starting to work with the magistrate judges who in Italy, they are the investigators as well as the prosecutors. And unfortunately, he died. And so we tried very hard about that. And we have no idea. We were just to the point where he was going to tell us who the magistrate judges were. So that ended. So the next thing, of course, is Matt Campbell and his family action with the coroner and the Attorney General of the UK, which is ongoing. And I think those of you who were on the Lawyers Committee special Zoom call that just ended, did hear from Mick Harrison, or from someone on the call, someone else on the call, one of the callers, that there is now the US or the Attorney General of the UK has stepped down now that Liz Truss is the brand new Prime Minister, and there's now a new person named Damien Williams or something like that, who is now the new Attorney General of the UK, who's going to maybe start from scratch on the Matt Campbell case. So that's international. Those are two international possibilities. However, Judge Impossimato personally tried to go, in fact, he did file something with the International Criminal Court. And he was told he probably shouldn't have bothered, because it turns out the mandate of the International Criminal Court only allows them to look at crimes or evidence of crimes for events that happened in 2002 or after. Isn't that convenient? Okay, so that is blocked. The European Court of Justice, you have to be a country, a nation member of the EU for that. And Judge Impossimato was looking into that when he died. That is also another avenue if the Matt Campbell family prevails in the UK with the coroner and the US attorney in the UK, then they could actually go to the European Court of Justice with their positive win. So that is still open to it. But I would just like to put a couple of things on the table. Let me finish. That the Lawyers Committee and Judge Impossimato and many others have looked into all of the international courts. And basically, as of now, the door is closed to us, but they may be open for the reasons that I just gave. All right. The next thing to keep in mind is that, I don't know how many of you noticed, but did anybody look at the New York Times, the front page of the hard copy New York Times on September 11th? There was nothing whatsoever on 9/11 on the front page of the New York Times. Zero. Okay. There was a little article the next day on the 12th about, the regular reading of the names at ground zero, but nothing on the September 11th itself. So the powers that be in this country are trying to make 9/11 go away. And let me point out another reason for knowing that they just want it to be forgotten, basically, and buried. And that is that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the 9/11 are still at Guantanamo, and they haven't even, I think they got into one evidentiary hearing and it got closed down because of the question about, torture of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed
Can I interrupt
183
you real,
times. Yeah.
interrupt you real quick? For
Yeah.
those that don't know, at 5:20 every day, I just take a quick moment of prayer. As a Christian, I just want to take a moment here. If you're not Christian, just hang loose. Lord, I thank you so much for the people that are here today. I thank you so much for the meeting that just happened with the Lawyers Committee. I ask you would continue to bless us, that we would see justice in our lifetime. You would encourage those that continue in this movement, and you would protect us, put a hedge of protection around the Lawyers Committee and Mick and everyone involved there, and give them guidance. In your name I pray. Amen. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's important to do because we're in a spiritual battle as well as a legal battle and a political battle, as everybody knows. That's why motivation is so important. That's why I think, my God, 1,000% go to the Supreme Court. Anyway, so back to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the 9/11 nothing has happened in over 21 years. They're just sitting there. And now I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but there's a move by the Biden administration to try to close down Guantanamo and move any one of the remaining so-called terrorists there, believe it or not, to a special terrorism center in Saudi Arabia. Are you aware of that? Okay. And so that, of course, ties directly into the case against Saudi Arabia by thousands of 9/11 victim family members, which was made possible by the release of the 28 pages and the embarrassment of the Saudis and the passage within a couple of weeks of JASTA, the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, for which Mick and I and former Senator Mike Gravel were absolutely centrally instrumental in enabling the Saudi case to go forward. And the last thing I want to mention is, if we really wanted to make international waves, no, there are two other things I need to mention. If we really wanted to get international attention, we would use JASTA to sue Israel. JASTA has only been used to sue Saudi Arabia. But we would need at least one 9/11 victim's family member, or presumably a first responder who's ill from the toxic dust, or a family member of a first responder who died, or a survivor like Willie Rodriguez. I think actually Willie might be willing to do it, but we could use JASTA to sue. Unfortunately, JASTA applies to every country on the planet except for the United States government, which is the one that matters. So another thing we could do is to form a lobbying organization in Washington, D.C., which the Lawyers Committee cannot do because it's political. We can lobby about issues, but we can't lobby about more directly political positions and candidates. But anyway, we can lobby about issues. But what we could do in Washington, D.C. is to lobby, is to actually write a model bill for the House and the Senate that would amend JASTA to include the United States government. And that would get international attention. I like to think big, okay? And then the other thing that everybody needs to know about, which is very exciting, is that I don't know if you know who Dr. Lucy Morgan Edwards is, but Dr. Edwards is a very important person in the UK. She now lives in Geneva, I believe. She lives in the EU now, but she's an EU citizen because the UK is no longer in the EU. But she is living in a UK country, and she is a UK citizen. Anyway, Dr. Lucy Morgan Edwards is a passionate, highly informed 9/11 truth advocate and researcher. And she was just invited on August 29th, just a little bit ago, as one of only 3, there's Lucy, there's Dr. Lucy Morgan Edwards. I don't believe she's in the lower right, but she is in the upper left, and she is there in Afghanistan. So anyway, on August 29th, Dr. Lucy Morgan Edwards was one of only 3 experts who were invited to give a presentation on Afghanistan, on the mess in Afghanistan, thanks to the lie of who attacked America on 9/11, which was the pretext for going into Afghanistan, just as the lie about Iraqi WMD was the pretext for the war and occupation of Iraq. She was one of only 3 experts invited to testify to a special session of the UN Security Council that is now presided over by the ambassador from China. And he opened it and he introduced her and she spoke. So what I'll do, if you don't have it already, Sandra and Jean, I will send you the link to the video with the time in, which is about 20 minutes, 22 minutes, something like that, in to the 2.5-hour special session, which I highly recommend everybody watch, because it was requested by Russia, and it was approved by the president of the UN Security Council, who will be the president for some time, who is the ambassador from China, who is working with Russia. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but the spokesperson, the publicist for the Chinese Foreign Ministry office, foreign minister, recently put out a collage, which is not even a thinly veiled statement that the US government is the real perpetrator, or elements in the government, military and industrial, and the executive branch, did 9/11, not just had foreknowledge and covered it up, but did it. So I invited Dr. Lucy Morgan Edwards to be on a worldwide radio show called The Other Side of Midnight with me a few days later. And I will also send you the audio file for that program, which is also extremely revealing. So you need to know that Dr. Lucy Morgan Edwards is a 9/11 passionate advocate, and she has a direct in to the United Nations offices of Russia and China. And I have asked her on that Other Side of Midnight radio program if she would be willing to approach the people who invited her to do that on August 29th to ask the Chinese ambassador if he would be willing to hold special sessions of the UN Security Council for 9/11 facts. So I'm working on that.
Excellent, thank you. Cale, you had a follow-up question?
Yeah, I have actually a couple quick questions. The any cases that go to the Supreme Court, are they made public while they're in session or out of session? Is there full transparency when a case is in the Supreme Court?
Yeah, when the oral arguments are actually heard, they're not televised, but they are live audio. You can listen live on the Supreme Court website, and then they are
Full transcript where we can hear.
Well, you can listen live. You can listen live on the Supreme Court website, and then they archive the audio on the Supreme Court website.
Is that by law? Is that by
I think it's
law?
by Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court makes its own rules.
Okay, so they could decide to not publicize as it's happening.
No, they won't. That would be extremely unlikely. I don't know of any case they've done that, ever.
Okay, and then my second question is, if it's lost in the Supreme Court, would that prevent us going to international court?
To a what?
If a case is lost in the Supreme Court, would that prevent any case going international?
No, not at all, never. It
into
also wouldn't
international
prevent
court?
no, it would not, and it would not prevent bringing any case, any different case to any federal court. Don't forget, this is only a mandamus case for ministerial records. Only we're asking to be told that they followed the federal law that requires the U.S. Attorney in New York to give our evidence and our petition and our supplement about the World Trade Center collapses to a federal criminal grand jury. We're just asking, did you do it or not?
Yep.
That's it. You know, so any other kind of case you can bring to any federal court, you can bring to any international court, and you can bring to any state court.
Even if it's lost in the Supreme Court, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Barbara, very much for that. That was very informative. At 6 o'clock, we have a Richard Gage Founders meeting call, so that leaves half an hour. Does anybody else have anything else important? I didn't pull up any new news for 9/11 right now. If anybody aware of anything going on, they'd like to bring to our attention.
Yeah, I do.
All right, Barbara.
Is everybody aware? Let me just pull it up because I think I have it right here. Donald, there's, give me a second here. Well, I thought I had it right there to be able to open and show. But anyway, I'll tell you what it is. Not that I would want him to be the spokesperson for this, but Donald Trump has recently said, I can't remember the venue, maybe somebody knows. He's again said, well, you know, we don't really understand what happened on 9/11. So, for what it's worth,
Yep.
who knows what'll come of that.
That was at the Live tournament, and he said, yeah, it was rather unfortunate we never got to the bottom of it, but he just leaves it open-ended.
Yeah, well, we didn't get to the bottom of it because he never did anything.
Yeah, I have a very low percentage of hope with him, but he's the only one that's actually made comments. In 2016, he came out and said, you will find out who really knocked down the towers. And through his whole presidency there, he didn't really do anything. But
Not that, well, the one thing we know is that when it happened to be on his watch that the
Right here by me.
the deadline came up to release all of the JFK records, and he continued to classify them.
I don't think I didn't hear it was him that was. I thought the CIA kicked back to him and said that they weren't going to release a certain amount.
That's not my understanding. What Trump actually said publicly was, well, I took a look at a bunch of those records the CIA gave me, and if it were my decision, they would never, ever be released.
Oh, wow. Okay. If that's the case, then that's disturbing. Thank you.
I just want to quickly interrupt before we reach the end of the call, and I didn't get a chance to ask. I see there's some people who haven't been on the call yet. Eric, Steve, and new users probably Al and Joseph also. Yes, no, okay. Well, but
Good that you recognize these other folks. I was wondering what other folks would have to say as well.
Well, I'm just asking. Hold on. I'm just
It's
asking.
Eric.
Yeah,
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So the only thing I could say, wanted to say on the Israel, if you go on the offensive in any way on Israel, the transcripts of the people that were arrested in New Jersey, the 5 celebrating Israelis, there are transcripts that have been FOIA'd and of the FBI interrogations of those people over the 60 days or so that they were held before Chertoff released them. And if anybody wanted to look into that, you could contact me. I know where, they have these transcripts. Somebody else could probably, Freedom of Information Act, those transcripts of interviews would show clear foreknowledge on the part of the people that were arrested. So that might be part of the case if you ever wind up there. Just wanted
Well,
to-
excuse
Okay,
me, Eric. Eric, are you saying that those transcripts are already public or not?
They're not public. They're held by somebody that's not really that interested in giving them to, to people, but, possibly could be persuaded to do so.
Well, do we know who is that?
It's Ryan Dawson. He's not in favor of the Lawyers Committee. He's highly egotistical. And the last time I talked to him about it, he wasn't interested in releasing the
Who
transcript.
again? Who had?
Ryan Dawson, anti-neocon report, if you know who I'm talking about. So this is something that I think would be important to take a look at that type of thing. And just contact me, and if you wanted to access that, I'll give another call.
Okay, what's your name and how do you contact you? What's your name?
My name is Eric.
Yeah.
Eric
And
Rossi, Rassi, and my email is houseofadifferentcolor@gmail.
I'm sorry, what?
House of a different color.
Oh,
Barbara, this is Deb. You know Eric from New York City.
Oh, Eric.
Oh,
Okay.
Eric, okay.
Hey,
Okay, all you have to do is say, okay, so.
oh, hold
this is-
on. House of a different color, what?
at Gmail.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I was kind of going with this because the three people who are on this call, I wanted to ask if it would be possible to have your emails. And because Barbara had asked for me to ask all of you to support the Lawyers Committee if you are in favor of them pursuing the Supreme Court avenue. So if you want me to include you on that email, then please maybe type your email address in the chat. And also let me know if you would like to be invited to the regular call that we have every Sunday, or if you'd rather not get bombarded with emails. So if you can, please type your email address in the chat. Let me know if you want me to include you in the email regarding the Lawyers Committee and the avenue to the Supreme Court, and if you want to be invited to this call every week or not. I'd really appreciate that. Just
Andrew,
trying to
I
get
just
all my
have
ducks in a row.
I have a clarification question. Are you proposing doing one email to the Lawyers Committee Board with a bunch of names?
No, but you were going to send me the addresses,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then I was going to forward it to
Oh,
everybody
I
on this
understand.
call.
Yes, it's better to have more than one email.
Yeah.
Anybody who believes we should appeal to the Supreme
No,
Court should
absolutely.
send their
But-
own. Yeah.
But I just want to send I just want to streamline the information and
Yeah,
send out
yeah,
one
yeah.
email
No,
to
I
everyone on this
understand.
call. Right.
Right. And the other thing for people to know is you need to do this immediately if you believe we should go to the Supreme Court. And the reason is there is a true deadline. It's the only option before the Lawyers Committee that has an actual deadline.
Yeah,
And
Barbara,
so-
you had said about the November 3rd, 4th, or 5th. What is this deadline, if you don't mind, if you could elaborate?
Well, in order to go to the Supreme Court, it takes time to prepare the document.
Understood.
And so we are the bottom line is do it in the next couple of days.
Okay.
Okay, because no, seriously, because we need to have those emails before our next board meeting, which is the 5th of October, Wednesday.
Okay.
And the sooner before that, the better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then to answer your question, it was August 5th that we got the negative decision from the Second Circuit Appeals Court, which is the highest appeals court, or highest court below the Supreme Court in the country. And you have 90 days to appeal. So I think technically they go by a 30-day month. And so it ends up being about November 3rd. But we don't want to push it because, as Mick says, there are really sticky, difficult, time-consuming requirements and rules for even applying for certiorari to the Supreme Court, which means, will you take the case? And you need at least a week because they require multiple physical copies to be delivered, and as well as, I mean, the bottom line is you need to do it immediately.
Okay, I'll send out that email like as soon as I can. Jean, is Richard's call really at 6? Because
He
it's
moved it
normally
up. Yes, he moved it up to.
Ah,
16.
shoot, okay. All right, and one more quick question. Who is iPad Steve, if I can just ask? And if you could take yourself off mute if you're talking.
Hello,
Yeah, hi.
Steve White.
Steve White?
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Barb, how you doing?
Great to hear you.
Been a long time.
I am sorry, I don't know who you are.
Well, I've been out of New York for 9 years now, but I'm a 9/11 truther in the old school. My loft was 3 blocks from Building 7.
Nice.
I don't want to take up too much time, but
Steve was my
My wife
partner
was
putting
killed
the
by
third
9/11.
beam up in the sky in New York
Oh.
City.
that's right.
Thank you very much for that then.
And,
You're very
and
welcome.
Steve donated dust from his house to
Oh,
some of the
wow.
independent
I-
scientists that were studying the nanothermite, right?
Wow.
That's right. And I persuaded my plumber to do so as well. So,
And by the way, he still has some of that dust.
Nice.
yep. And so, I don't know if there are people still holding it because during the last couple of years, a lot of people moved out of the neighborhood. But at one point, there were 2 other people with dust down there that had not been collected or examined yet, in fact. But I
And
don't know
by
if
the
they're
way,
still
on the
there.
screen right now is the photograph. If you go to the top again, that's myself in the middle and Richard Gage on the right, both of us a lot younger than we are now. And that's Manny Badillo on the left, literally a couple of minutes after the third beam was a success in the sky. That was the 9th anniversary. I pressed the button on the 4 generators to make the beam go up at 9:11 p.m. on the 9th anniversary of 9/11.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's legacy right there.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Ray, you got a question?
There I am. Now you see me.
Ray, please not explosives. Please, please, please not explosives.
No,
No.
wait. It's very simple.
We've got-
Jean, may I ask the question first?
Yes, of course, but you know
Okay,
why.
okay, and it's a simple question for Jean. Jean posted a photo of this piece of metal which was embedded in the tree
Yes.
at the Pentagon. And can I have that photo? Can you put it in the chat that I can download it or you know?
I will have to find out where that is.
It's a very curious piece of metal in this tree, and it's really, I'm really interested in what it could be, because you asked the question last time, what could it be? What is this thing that's sticking out of this tree?
I'd like to have that photo too, Gene.
Yeah, I'll try to find it. It was given to me by David Cool.
Yeah.
I'm having a rough time finding it right now on the fly.
Okay.
But
Maybe post it on the WarRoom in the Facebook or whatever.
yeah,
Because I was looking for pieces of metal in trees and pictures of it, and then I came on a picture that was taken in Sri Lanka by a photographer, and it has the same characteristic. It looks the same. And I posted that in the chat from what I found.
yeah.
What happened in Sri Lanka?
There
What was
was bombs on that exploded, and pieces of shrapnel they pierced in the tree and got stuck there, and it's remarkable if you look at that piece of metal, and you look at the piece of metal which Jean posted or he got from David Cole. That there's similarities in this, the way that the penetration is, but also that it's metal.
Could you send the photograph of the piece of metal in Sri Lanka?
I have it here, but we can open it now in the chat. We can look at it
No,
together.
what I'm asking you to do is to send it to Gene so that he can then send
Let's
both of them together to all of us.
Yeah, when I find it, I can't do it right now, unfortunately. Usually pretty quick at that stuff, but
I think that's very important if it was a bombing event in Sri Lanka, because my work on the Pentagon is about pre-placed explosives. at the Pentagon.
Barbara,
Maybe we
could
can
he
go to
share
Ross
the
in the
screen
meantime.
and show it? Barbara, could he share the screen
Oh,
and show
I
it to
found
all
it.
of
Oh,
us?
yeah, he could share it now. I just
Gina,
would
There.
appreciate.
I found it. Hang on. Screen 2. So this is the photo that David sent me.
Yeah.
And this is the photo that Ray just sent me.
Hold on. Do we know where the tree is that the piece of metal is at the Pentagon?
Yeah,
That was-
yeah. It's the tree. If you have the entrance, there's a doors at the Pentagon opposite the helipad.
Yes.
And if you're on the helipad, you look at the Pentagon, it's the right tree.
Okay, the one to the right, kind of beyond the helipad.
Yeah, but it's the closest to where something happened.
Oh, that's interesting. Because
Yes.
the wall behind is perfectly pristine.
Not exactly, but it's this piece of metal. Can you put this one in the chat, Gene?
I
Do
can't.
you have a photograph of this that shows the tree from a distance so we can see where it is?
Yes. There are a lot of pictures that show it from a distance.
Okay.
It's not a very big piece, but it's really, you can see it in a lot of pictures made in the Pentagon aftermath, that this piece is sticking out of this tree.
I'm trying to find a good other photo.
And what is your name and email address to request the photo from a distance that shows where the tree is?
I can post it anywhere. I can even
Okay.
post it here, but I have to search. I did not expect
Okay,
that question.
okay,
but
if you
but
could
it's-
just send it to Jean, so we
I
can
will-
see
I
the
will post-
relative location of the
Are
tree.
you in the on Facebook active?
No, I'm not. I'd have to get it from Sandra or Jean.
Okay, yeah. Then I'll post it in yeah, but there's much better pictures of it. I have a lot of pictures of the Pentagon and it's there, but you
Okay.
go on, I'll search it. I'll search it. You take
do that again.
some other avenue. But Jean, if you can post it here in the chat, that would be lovely.
Okay, I will do that.
Yes, thank you.
5:47. We do have to get off on another call here. I just want to go around the room real quick. Oh, Ross, you had something?
Yeah, I'll use this as my as well, but for the day. As I mentioned on the other call, I'm going to be producing this new hypothesis about how the towers were, specifically how they were brought down technically. Mentioned it to you before, the baked in the cake with the concrete, but the detonation process is what I consider to be a bit of a mystery. But I come across the idea that the towers themselves, we never speak of them in other ways, but structural strength. But actually their form factor, they were a perfect electric detonation circuit. If you know about electricity and how detonations and switching can happen, the towers and their configuration as they were built would be easily able to be rigged as a detonation electrical circuit. So that certainly mystery to most people online right now in this short time. But I think that's one of the keys is, again, you've got to have it be easily explosive, easily employed and easily detonated. So those form factors were built into the towers, I believe. And then we'll talk about the ghost spires as part of that. I've got a video, but we're not going to show it today because there's no time, but found a really good video from Jonathan Cole, architects and engineers, that really shows, I think, what was happening with the cores of both towers. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Ross. We're just gonna go around the room real quick, 30 seconds apiece. If you guys got anything for the call, sorry to call it a short one, but got another phone call coming in. So, Alfred, anything for the group?
Yeah, I wanted to pitch the sprinkler company again. I tried to reach Eric. I haven't had much luck getting a hold of him, but somebody with deep pockets that would be interested in supporting either the lawyers committee or Papa. But those guys were interested. They represent an international sprinkler company. And again, they're being sued by the Silverstein Corporation, which claimed that the sprinklers weren't working in the buildings. And their whole case is that they were. And so anyway, they were real interested in what we were doing there at the NFPA. And
Which building are we talking about in that lawsuit?
both,
Just-
WTC 1 and 2, and then Building 7. They were the contractors that had installed those sprinklers.
Okay, I understand. My question is, Silverstein Corporation is claiming that the sprinklers didn't work in any of the 3 buildings or just some?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not really sure on that.
Okay,
So anyway, trying to get Eric to put a call into them again. He had a sit down with them and when we were there at the National Fire Prevention Association in Boston. And they expressed a lot of interest in what we were doing.
All right. Good.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Thank you. Steve, anything for the group?
Not really. I'm just catching up. I'm pretty far behind on the 9/11. Been following the virus and the vaccine issues for the last couple of years, pretty much exclusively. It's all related, obviously, to 9/11. But I'm trying to bring the gematria camp into the 9/11 camp, and it didn't go very well. I was hoping to get down there and make some introductions. Zach Hubbard is not the easiest guy to get along with, I guess. But the point is, he's pretty much proving all the things we're saying. It can be proven, and it's just so far it didn't go well. That's all, and I'm sorry that didn't work out, and I'm sorry I'm laid up right now and I can't go anywhere.
No, but thank you for joining.
Well, you're welcome.
A very deep subject that I'd like to address, but we can't do that here now. But
Exactly. I'm not trying to.
Yeah, I dig it. All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for getting involved early in the movement. Ray, anything for the group?
No. I was just looking for the photo, but we'll get to it the other time.
I did put it in the
another
chat.
time, another place.
The image is put in the chat. I sent it to everyone. Kale,
Yes,
anything?
yes.
Kale, anything for the group?
No, just does the chat follow along with the timeline when we're talking? If someone's to watch it, does it fall in line with what we're
I don't.
like? YouTube has a transcript and then the numeric.
Yeah, no, it doesn't do that in Zoom.
Okay, I'm just curious. All right.
Thank
Check
you.
the chat. Thank you guys. Thank you for everything.
thank you.
Deborah, anything for the group? Nope.
I will.
Thank you for being here.
Oh,
Sandra,
just hello, keep up the good work.
good to see you.
Hi,
I'll
Barb.
send you, Sandra, the list of the current board members in our email.
Since you're up there, Barb, anything else for the group for you for this
No,
week?
that's it. Just thank you I just want to be on the record here. I'm not asking anybody to do anything you don't honestly believe, of course.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Susan Serpa, anything for the group?
Just wanted to follow up on Al's comment about the sprinkler company and his failure to get information from Eric Lawyer about his follow-up with them. Is Eric the only one, Al, that has their contact information? Does Richard have it? Does Raul have it? Do you have it?
I don't have it, and I think Raul does, but Richard didn't, he was too busy with other things, and he said I should be talking to Eric on that. So that's pretty much the go-to
Well,
Um,
Eric is historically very unresponsive.
I know, you
So
can't
that-
get him by email and I've tried
So I
several.
think we need to try Rael.
Yeah, well, I think that's right. I think that's the next step.
Yeah, because I think this is an important unexplored alliance, sprinkler companies.
Absolutely, I would agree.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Captain Raul Angulo, he wrote the 4th edition of Fireground Operations. He's getting back involved. He's getting involved with Eric Lawyer and Richard in a group called Protecting All Protectors Alliance. You can see the website at protectingall.org. Raul, Captain, he said he didn't want to go down the rabbit hole, but he evidently has, because he put out a new video saying he agrees that something else happened than what the official story says. So he's now getting a little bit more vocal, and that's awesome.
Yeah,
Is
you
it-
can see him in Bravo 7.
Yes.
He's been out on Facebook. He's really changed his mind about it being exposed.
Excellent. We have another Al on the call. Al, do you have anything for us? The other
So
Al?
I think Al is using two, it's like a phone and a computer.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Eric, anything for the group? I don't know if Eric, you hear us? If you have anything for the group to sign off? Other than clearing your throat?
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, well, you're doing great work and glad to see that things are still proceeding. So that's about it. Good luck and I'll talk to you another time.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank
Yosef,
you.
thank you for joining. Anything for the group?
Just a general thank you. I didn't know you existed until today because of the transfer from the 4 o'clock. And I'm trying to get back in the loop. As I said, I signed up with Richard when he had 64 architects and engineers on the list. And
Awesome.
I've been doing a little bit because I had the relationship. So I'll be here. I'm a Zoom fanatic. I've been in isolation since the pandemic. I conduct 2 Zoom calls a day, which now run up to 1,400 and something. There's a lot to be said for what needs to be done, and I want to learn and I want to contribute. You'll probably see me here most every weekend.
Awesome. Thank you, Yosef.
Gene. Thank you, Gene. Oh, yes, by the way, that is my sculpture. It's
Nice.
one of them here in Anchorage. It's a 30-foot bronze. We'll talk
Wow.
about it next week.
Yes,
Leave
sir.
them wondering.
And Sandra, and last but not least, anything for the
No.
group?
I'm good. And Barbara, I have all the email addresses, so you don't have to send me anything. I'll just send the email right away.
All right, 5:57. Have a good evening, everybody. and a
Hold
great
on,
week.
hold on, hold
Oh,
on, please.
wait.
Yeah, so just to be clear, could you name the board members, please, to make sure that we have
Well, you
everybody?
told me they should email either Jane, Mick, Richard, or you.
No, you should send to all board members except Christine is no longer on the board.
Oh, okay.
So that would be Jane, Mick, myself, Richard Gage, Bruce Lichty, and Charlotte Dennett.
Okay, so I
Do
need
you have all
Charlotte.
those?
I need Charlotte and
Bruce.
And Bruce?
Bruce, right?
Okay, I'll send you that as soon as
Yeah. If you can do that right away, then I'll send the email in the next 10 minutes.
Okay, we'll do.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Night.